The MBRP Black system that we're talking about here today will be for the 11 to 14 3.5 EcoBoost owners out there who are looking for a unique appearance thanks to the combination of black powder coating on top of the very cool mid-cab exit design or configuration. Now, on top of that, prospective buyers can look forward to a noticeable increase in sound, as you guys heard with our sound clips, all for right around that high $500 price point. Install may require some cutting depending on your wheelbase or bed length, so figure a 2 out of 3 wrenches on the difficulty meter here and a couple of hours or so to complete from start to finish. And as always guys, if you hang with me for a little bit, we'll show you how it's done later in the video. But let's just jump right into things here, gang, and as you heard at the top of this video, the sound coming from the Black Series is pretty solid overall. In fact, I really enjoyed the tone coming from the MBRP for the 3.5 EcoBoost, which, let's face it, is not always the easiest engine to make sound good. Certainly not the loudest or craziest system out there, but nice tone overall, and one that will get noticed without driving you crazy. So let's go middle of the road, 3 out of 5 on my patented 1 to 5 or 1 to wake the neighbor scale. Now you are going to hear this thing in the interior, guys, a little bit of drone, nothing outrageous, but if you notice some of our customer reviews, is kind of a reoccurring theme in that regard. Not whisper quiet, but again, something to be aware of before purchasing. But with the sound covered, let's briefly talk about why the Black Series is a unique system from MBRP. And on the surface, it's black, right? Pretty obvious stuff. However, there is a little bit more to it than that. Now, this system actually starts out life as the Installer Series, which is MBRP's kind of bare bones or entry-level system, thanks to the very affordable aluminized steel design. However, at that point, the tips here and kind of tailpipes have been given that heat-resistant black powder coat to not only kick up the appearance a little bit, but actually act as a barrier against the elements for that aluminized steel, which historically isn't the best material at reducing corrosion. However, coating it with something like this certainly helps prevent that corrosion in the long run. But aside from that black finish, the second big draw I feel here at the MBRP is going to be that tip configuration. Again, this is a middle side exit or middle cab exit as they call it, meaning it will dump in front of those rear tires, which is pretty unique. Now this does add a little bit more to that interior noise we just mentioned, but if you don't mind hearing this thing a little bit, you don't mind turning up the radio, you're certainly going to be getting one of the coolest looking aftermarket systems on the site. But talking a little bit more about construction, guys, we did mention that aluminized steel already. However, you are also looking forward to 3-inch mandrel bent tubing throughout here, guys, leading into and out of your MBRP signature muffler before it does step up to the 4-inch twin tips here etched with the MBRP logo. Now, interesting fact, guys, those tips themselves have actually been made from premium 304 grade stainless before being finished off in the same heat-resistant black powder coat as the rest of the system here. Now, the lead pipe, which is over here, does connect after your resonator, so you will not be deleting that with the system. However, this is the piece that you will need to trim depending on your wheelbase. Very long wheelbase trucks will not need to cut anything, but everybody else, basically 90% of trucks, will need to make some small modifications to this piece here, which MBRP does lay out very clearly in the instructions. However, to give you a better idea of how things will go down on your own 3.5 EcoBoost at home, here's that detailed walkthrough we promised you earlier, along with a quick tool breakdown.
So, the first step to installing your new exhaust system is obviously to remove your old one. I'm going to start off by lubricating all of my hangers, and actually I'm going to unbolt this hanger that faces the opposite direction before I unbolt the flange up at the front. Then I'm going to slide the whole exhaust system back out of its hangers and remove it all in one piece. Now I'm just going to hit my bolts and my hangers with a little bit of penetrating oil to make removal a little bit easier. Alright, so I'm going to start off by removing this hanger. It actually points the opposite direction. It's going to stop me from sliding the entire exhaust system back out of the other hangers. So I'm just going to use a 10mm socket to remove these 2 bolts, and that hanger will just move out of the way. Now I'm going to use a 13mm socket to remove my 2 flange bolts here at the front of the catback. Now that I've got everything lubed up and everything unbolted, I'm going to use a pry bar, slide my entire exhaust system back out of the hangers. With the help of a friend up front, we're going to drop this out in one piece. All right, so this hanger up here is fighting us a little bit, and rather than risk damaging it, I'm also just gonna unbolt it like I did with the one right in front of it. So after measuring our truck, we have a 145-inch wheelbase, which is going to require us to cut our intermediate pipe to 24 inches. So I'm going to make a measurement and then make a cut. Now I'm just going to clean out some of the burrs on the outside of the pipe. It's also a good idea to clean up the burrs on the inside of your pipe. Now that we've made our cut, we can install our intermediate pipe to our flange. Now I'm going to use the supplied clamps and the muffler and install it to our intermediate pipe. Once I have it installed, I'm going to put a support underneath the muffler to hold it in place while I put together the rest of the system. So one of our factory exhaust hangers is actually going to get reused since they are identical front and rear, and the front one does not have a nipple that holds the exhaust hanger from sliding off. I'm going to remove the front one and put it in place. And now I'm just going to put the factory hanger back in its factory location, the furthest back spot. At this point, I can pre-install my exhaust clamps onto the back of my muffler and then start installing my side exit pipes. Now I'm going to use the provided J-clips in these pre-drilled and cut holes in the frame to mount my side exit pipe hanger. And now I'm just going to use a 13mm socket to tighten up these bolts. Now I'm just going to install the provided isolator onto the two new hangers. Now I can install my final side exit pipe and leave all of my clamps loose so that I can make all my alignments and adjustments to get everything lined up perfectly at the tips. So these side exit pipes come with welded brackets on each one. This is to hold the two pipes together to keep them from vibrating and also to help alignment with the tips at the side exit. You're just going to use the supplied bolt from the kit and install it into the two brackets to hold them together. Now I'm going to slide my tips into place and then make all of my adjustments and alignments to get everything perfectly lined up. Now working my way from the back all the way up to the front, I'm going to start tightening up my clamps and my bolts a little bit at a time, making sure that I keep my alignment as I go. I'm going to use a small extension and 13mm socket with a wrench. Now using a 15mm socket and an impact gun, I'm going to start tightening up my slip joint clamps, and I'm going to keep my eye on the tip alignment as I work myself forward with all my clamps. Now I'm going to tighten up the two bolts at the flange before I move back to the tips and make my final adjustments. Finally, I'm going to use an 8mm Allen socket to tighten up the tip clamps. And that's going to wrap up our review and install for the MBRP dual side exit exhaust for your 11 to 14 F150 EcoBoost. Thanks for watching. For all things F150, keep it right here at AmericanTrucks.com.